Good afternoon, everyone, and it's Louise here from Eleanor Grace. We're going to do a little introduction here to colour confidence. This is going to be part of the series of workshops I'm doing for the YouTube membership. I'm still waiting to hear back from YouTube to get that going again, but hopefully that should be very shortly. So this is just to give you a little idea of some of the things that we'll talk about, but we will go into a lot more detail in the main video. To talk about colour, some of us, I did a poll of you a while ago, and almost everybody said, even if they felt a little bit confident with colour, that they felt they could always learn something else. And most of you felt that you slightly lacked confidence in some form or other with colour, and particularly about how to put things together. So I thought I'd just show you first of all this little mini colour wheel that I've done. If you look closely, I've actually stitched all the colours. You've got your primary, secondary and tertiary colours, which I'll talk about more later. And I've stitched each of these lines, one of each of the colours. It is just a little reminder. It was just a little fun thing. I thought I'd just use this as a sort of mini needle keeper or pin cushion, just to sort of have the colours in front of me and just to sort of remember. So yeah, I thought that was just a little fun project that you could do a version of. I was initially going to do loads of French knots in between each colour, but I thought this was just a little bit simpler. But yeah, there are so many things that you can learn about colour. What I will say first of all is that if you like something, then it's not wrong. And so it's easy to get swept away in colour, and colour is complex, although you can sort of break it down. So I'm just going to show you my little colour palettes here. So these are the colours on the colour wheel, and I'm going to talk about this sort of in as I say, in fairly simple terms here, but we will go into more detail in the main session. I've just thought I'd start off with a few little tips and tricks about getting confident with colour, and then as I say, we can move on to slightly more complex things. I do apologise. The weather today it's gone between bright sunshine and absolute storms and wind and all sorts. I also have Ella sitting behind me in a paper bag. So if you hear rustling, I do apologise. She wanted to be part of the video, but she's decided she's a bit tired and she's going to go and have a break instead. So I'll put those out the way for the moment, because I'm going to show you a couple of the basics about colour that really helps in terms of sort of tips and tricks. The first thing is to get to understand the colour wheel a bit. So obviously you've seen my little one here. Colour wheels appear. This is a interior design thing that came free with a magazine. So I'm just going to stretch out a little bit here. But colour wheels appear in most obviously interior design books and magazines. They also come in many of the craft books. You'll find a colour wheel. This one is a little bit shorter than some of the others. I think this is actually this has got 12, which is what I've got as well. But I love this one because it's all buttons, so it does really appeal to me. The use of colour in interior design magazines and books is a really good way to start if you are lacking inspiration, or if you're just really not confident about how colours go together. I've got this little book here, which is really old, and I don't know if it's in print anymore. It's quite an old one, but it's got different sort of interior design palettes depending on your mood. I will show you one that I fell in love with when I moved into my current house. Is this? I just love this mixture of the soft pinks, the purples and the greens, and that in itself is a colour palette that you could then go and work with. I have used that in the past in various different ways. I've got inspiration from things. I also get a lot of inspiration from nature. If you look at what nature, puts together, you find greens go with an awful lot of things, greens and purples. I mean, this is in my garden, this is also how my garden looks with that sort of colour scheme. And you can gain a lot of inspiration just from looking around you. Sometimes I've seen something when I'm out and about, and I thought, that would be a lovely, color palette. So look around you, get inspiration, have a look and see, what's in your garden, what goes together. You've got variegated leaves in your garden, so yellow and green sort of going together, and yellowy greens, and so on. So there's lots of inspiration to be gained from there. And and things like this, some of these palettes are really quite vibrant. Orange and purple is something you can find that in the garden. Quite often they put together orange and purple as a combination, because the one really plays it off against the other, and they're both quite bright and sort of dominant. So yeah, these are ways that I sometimes look through things to get an inspiration for what I want to do. And the other way is to use fabric. So I'll just get you an example of where I start sometimes. You will also have seen, or if you haven't seen them, I do recommend having a look at one of my earliest videos was about construction. And so if you've got the basics on those sort of things about how to construct a slow stitching piece, then this is an example of putting together this fabric here, which is one of my most favorite. I just absolutely love this fabric. It's just so lovely. And if you aren't confident at putting colours together, well, it's done for you, isn't it, already? So you've got this lovely sort of turquoise. You've got the real turquoise background, then you've got this brighter sort of bluer turquoise here. You've got pink and you've got purple. I tend to put together 3 or 5 colours. You'll find that in nature as well. Things tend to go in odd numbers. If you use even numbers, I'm sure it probably doesn't matter. And as I said, we're slow stitch rebels, so it doesn't. We can do what we want, can't we? But I tend to find 3s and 5s on a small piece like this. As you can see, I've put the 3 together from this fabric here. So the purple's picked out there. This lovely it's almost like a sagey turquoise, which is the background. And then this, mine is a slightly peachier pink than appears here, but it really is very, very similar. And it just gives you the palette already to start with. So as you can see, I've started another bullion rose here, and I've made a few stitches there. But these are the 3 colours, and on something small, 3 is, I find it tends to be enough. On something bigger, I would probably, go for slightly more colours in most cases. But yeah, getting inspiration from fabric is great. So that's one example. I'm going to show you a few others as well. So we have a range of fabrics here, all a good jumping off point for a new scheme. And I mean, this is like a sort of batik sort of fabric. And again, you've already got the colours sort of picked out for you. It doesn't mean you have to go exactly for that, but it gives you an idea. So they've got a little bit of sort of a aqua greeny sort of blue here. They've got lovely pink. They've got the purple, the dramatic purple, and even going to blue in places as well. All of those colours go really well together. And you can see, you can see it there already. So you could use something like that as a jumping off point for inspiration. Another example here is one of not my stitching. It's a bit of quilting, which is not my forte. But you can see how the person here has picked these lovely fabrics. And if you were to put them each in isolation, you might not necessarily put them together, but it ties in this orange and then the softer orange here. And it's absolutely gorgeous combination with this sort of khaki, almost sort of grey green. and it's absolutely beautiful. And yeah, at first glance you might not put those colours together, but look, that pops, doesn't it? It's absolutely amazing. This one again is quite bright and quite dramatic, and it's got these lovely pinks with these sort of sagey going to darker greens, and then the black, the really dramatic sort of black cutting in there. So again, these are all just sort of inspirations for a colour scheme. And finally, I'll show you this, which is very much my sort of thing. Any of those of you that know have seen my work, you know, putting together colours that are, you know, soft pastel, green and pink, goes together beautifully with yellows, creams, neutrals. That is my go-to palette, as many of you will know. This is one of my this is my gift, one of my gift tags, and you know, that green and pink and neutral is very much you know, very much one of my, I suppose it's one of my trademarks now, isn't it, really? But you know, getting inspiration in the first instance, whether or not you actually use this piece in your work or not, you know, it could be a jumping off point for you putting together a palette. And you know, I really enjoy getting my threads out, you know, as in this case, this is not actually far off there, or the purple you could take out and replace with a yellow or a cream, or even going to more towards white. And yeah, I just love to get out and even sometimes sit and compare, you know, if I've got two colours that are similar, I might sort of compare them and decide, you know, whether that is something you know, that I want to use. So that's one of the best piece one of the best parts of you know, doing something. And the other thing is as well, and I am going to be doing a class on this as part of the color confidence, is to blend colors. So not so much if you're using cotton perlays like those ones I've just shown you there, but I'm going to be doing this workshop, showing you how to you know, blend colors and use different options. So you don't have to use, you know, 2 or 3 strands of the same color. You can play around and see what happens, which I've done here with some of these. So you know, it is not sort of being stuck in a you know, without ideas. You can look all around you and find inspiration. You know, if you have a particular favorite color scheme, my green and pink phase has come from decorating my house in a very soft green, and then having little accents of pink and neutrals, and that's where I've suddenly gone into my pink and green phase. But you can also move outside of those that you feel really confident with. I'll give you a prime example here. I love these colours and I wear them, but I don't necessarily work with them all the time. This is one of my little bookmarks. And this inspiration came actually from this bit of fabric. Now the fabric's actually brown, which I haven't picked up in the rest of the bookmark, but it had this lovely green and orange, and sort of like a burnt orange, and that's where I got the inspiration for this piece. And again, sort of mixing, doing bullion roses here in 2 different colour threads. I had the 2 running sort of at the same time at the back, which was a bit mad, but yeah, it's sort of getting inspiration and trying different things. You know, it is very easy to stick in the colour palette that you love, and you know, you'll see that again and again with me if I show you one of my needle cases. You know, again, I've gone, you know, green and pink here, but yeah, you can move outside of your palette and start sort of adding in different colors and working in sort of you know, different shades and tones, and I will be talking a lot more about that in the session. So I hope this has been useful as a little starting off point anyway, to think about where you get inspiration from. And the last thing I would say is really reiterating that no combination is wrong. You know, there are certain rules. There are certain rules in certainly in art about colour. But the best, I think, always the best artists are the ones that tend to break the rules a little bit. And in slow stitching, we just do enjoy what we're doing, and we do enjoy putting things together. And so take your lead. If you're not so confident, take your lead from these different things. Have a look around you. What colors really appeal to you, or what might you want to try that's a little bit different, and start just putting colors together and see what really appeals, what is sort of sings to you. And it might be looking in one of these books that are getting a Holmes magazine and having a flick through. It might be looking at some of the stitch books or magazines. They can be really inspirational. And it might be just having a look in your fabric stash and sort of finding something different or unusual, something that you've always wanted to add into something, and that might just be the jumping off point for you to put together combinations that really work. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, and I hope to catch up with you later, and we will be going into this in a bit more detail. I'm going to be going into the colour wheel in more detail, and also talking about some of the rules of colour, which we can either choose to use or choose to completely ignore. So have a lovely afternoon, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.